So you're going to open Photoshop and you'll get this page and you'll say create new. Now if you already have it open, you'll just go File, New, Command or Control N. So you want your document to be 3000 and make sure it is set to pixels, not inches. If it's inches, you'll make a giant document, which will make your computer very sad. 2400 for the height. So the orientation is landscape, resolution is 300, color mode is going to be grayscale, so you have black and white pixels, and the background is white. Leave your color profile and your pixel aspect ratio at their defaults. So 3000 pixels for the width, 2400 pixels for the height, landscape, 300 for the resolution, color mode is grayscale, it's 8-bit, and background is white. Hit create. Okay. Now again, like I said, you could have said File New. If you already had it open, you get the same box up. So we have a blank document with a white background. And now we're going to say Filter, Noise, Add Noise. So Filter menu, Noise, Add Noise. Make sure Gaussian is selected. Don't worry about the mount. Hit OK. And it's thrown some black and white pixels on your page. We want to add more. For me, if I click on Filter, I can see that mine is Command F. Yours could be Control F. Some slightly different versions have an extra modifier key, but right here it'll tell you what to hit. And you want to know that because you want to hit it repeatedly. So I'm going to hit mine, which is Command F. I'm just going to keep hitting it until we zoom in. See how it's not really getting any darker? The pixels are just moving. That's what you want. Perfect. So now we just have some random pixels. We're going to go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and make sure it's set to 2, the number 2. Hit OK. Now this you can maybe repeat 1 or 2 times. Don't overdo it. This one you can overdo. Noise you can't, but this one you can. Okay, so now it's kind of blurry. It looks kind of like pavement. So we want to up the contrast. So we are going to go to Image, Adjustment, Levels, and notice it's Command or Control L depending on whether you're on PC or Mac. And up will come this, and this is a histogram, and it shows the distribution of black, middle gray, and white on your document. Right now everything's stuck at middle gray. So let's move this one over, the black over to the edge here. And what I'm saying is where this information is that was middle gray, I want you to make it black and change the distribution of this curve. So now it's kind of dark, so I'm going to move the white over to this edge, and you're telling it this information should be white. And we'll hit OK, and you can see indeed you raised the contrast. And if I hit Command or Control L, you can see that the information has now been spread out. Alright, so we want to select a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of this. So to select things in Photoshop, hit M, and make sure, by the way, you're on the rectangle. There's also a circle, and depending on your Photoshop, there might be some others. So we want this rectangle. And up here, make sure it is not feathered, 0 feather, and you want this first one chosen. And I'm just going to hit Command plus and zoom in some. And I'm just going to choose a little. I'm going to choose the tiniest piece, and you can see how tiny that piece is. It's so tiny. And you can see those little marching ants telling you that you've selected that area. You have told Photoshop that is the area I want you to apply anything I do to. So what are we going to do? We're going to copy it. Command or Control C. Now we need a new document. Command or Control N. Do not change anything here. Notice the clipboard. It says clipboard here. That means it's going to make a document the size of the last thing that you copied. So now you can hit Create. If you're on a Mac and it's blue, you can hit Return. Same difference, they'll do the same thing. And then you hit Command or Control V and paste it in. So let's go back. We're going to do that again. I'm going to zoom back in. Let me grab maybe just this piece. I think I'll make it a nice thin long piece. And the same thing, Command or Control C, Command N, hit create or return, Command or Control V. And let's grab yet another itty bitty little piece. Ooh, I like that funny shape. Command or Control C, Command or Control N, hit create or return if you're on a Mac, Command or Control V. So now we have 1, 2, 3 tiny pieces we took from the original. So let's click on the original and let's throw it away. We don't need it anymore. Say don't save. So here we go. We've got 3. Let's go to our first one. Now it's not the right size. The size for this project is 3000 by 2400. So I'm going to say image size. Now make sure that resample is checked because you need to create information. And if it's unchecked, it won't let you create information or throw away information. It's very useful if you're trying to figure out what resolution to make something for printing, but we want to create info. So make sure it's checked. Type in 3000, type in 2400. And actually, let me show you one thing here. Now, if you hold the Option or Alt down, it gives you a reset button, so I can click it back to what it was. Make sure this is unchecked, because look what happens if I hit 3000. It's changing the height of the other one. It'll keep it in proportion. We don't want that, so make sure that is unchecked as well. 3000 by 2400. 300 is the resolution. This is unchecked. This is checked. And remember, Alt or Option will let you reset it to what it was originally. Can be useful many times over. So hit OK. And now I'm going to hit Command or Control 0 to center it on the page. And you can see there it is. Now at this point, if you want to up the contrast again, you can hit Command or Control L to bring up those levels and boost the contrast. So now we can see up here it says gray. We want to add color, but it only has gray pixels, only black and white pixels. So we have to change that. And the way to change it is you have to change the mode. Image, mode, RGB color. We want to go to RGB color. That is your screen color. That's how your screen uses color. RGB color. You would only go to CMYK if you were done editing it and you needed to send it to the printer. So RGB. Red, green, blue. And yes, you want to flatten it. You can either click flatten. If you're on a Mac and you see a blue button, you can hit return. Okay, so now we have added color. It now says RGB. I mean, we have the ability to add color, I should say. So now we are going to go Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. And there we go. We've got our color balance up. Now if you move these around, you'll see it tones it. And indeed, you also can tone the shadows differently. So let me click the shadows and make those a little yellow, and the highlights, and I'll make those a little more blue. So you can give it a little more color variation. So there we go. We have one done. Now if you don't have your layers up, you want that window. Go to Window, Layers, and bring it up. And let me just point out that the title of all these menus gives you a clue as to what is under them. Different windows are under Windows. Different ways of viewing things are under View. Filters are under Filter. 3D stuff is under 3D. Selecting stuff under Select. Type. Oh, please don't use type in Photoshop. Just don't do it. Layer. Things about your layers are under Layers. Images like your adjustments and your sizes and things like that under Image. Edits, fill and warp and defining brushes under here. File, like closing things, opening things, stuff like that under File. So if you're wondering where something is and you don't remember, just take a moment and think about logically which one of these menus would it be under. So let's go to the next one. Same thing. Image. Image size. 3000. And you can hit the tab to go to the next one, 2400 and 300 for the resolution. Again, make sure this is unchecked and that is checked and hit OK. Command or Control 0, Command minus, and Command plus. Command minus, that's Command minus, Command plus to zoom in, zoom out with Command minus. Okay, so we've made it the right size, and now we need to make it RGB. So I had you bring up your layers because you can see there's just a blank useless layer under here. So when you flatten it, you'll see what happens when we say Image Mode RGB. Image Mode RGB color. So we don't really need this little guy here, so just hit flatten and boom, you can see that extra kind of useless layer is gone. So it's still, we still need to add color, but we're going to do something different this time. Hit W on your keyboard and let's grab the magic wand tool. If you're not on it, click and drag to it. And by the way, if you want your tool, if your toolbar looks like this, you can make it look like mine by just hitting these two double arrows if you prefer that view. So W and click and drag to the magic wand tool if it doesn't come up by default, because there's a bunch of tools under there. Now another thing you want to note about the magic wand tool is up here is the tolerance. The higher this number, the more it'll select when you click, the lower the less. And what do I mean? Let's go to our document and just click different places and see, you know, that's very light, that whole area, and it only chose that because within a 32 pixel tolerance, that's all that fit in that tolerance for it to choose. A little confusing, but as you use it, I think you'll start to understand how it works. Now, if you want to add to your selection, you just hold the delightful Shift key down, same as in Illustrator. So select an area of your image with this magic wand tool. Now you are going to hit Command or Control B for boy. Now you could go at image adjustments, color balance, but that is the long way. Get used to the hotkeys. Alright, so you can slide it around and change the colors. And it just colored that area, and that looks great. So just leave it selected. If you accidentally deselect it, hit Command or Control Z to reselect it. We want to color the other half, so how could we do that? Well, it's a selection. We want to select the other part. We want to select the inverted part, the opposite, the inverse. So if we click on Select in the menu, right at the very top here, it says Inverse, and it's Command Shift I or Command Control I is the hotkey. So when I hit it, it selected the other part of the image that wasn't previously selected. And that can really be your friend because sometimes you want to edit something and it's very easy to select the thing you don't want to edit instead of the thing you do. So you just select the thing you don't want edited and then you hit Inverse in Photoshop. Very easy. So let's hit Command or Control B for boy, and let's give this side a different color. And don't select it, just go ahead and hit Command or Control B for boy and give it a different color. Alright, so now we want to add, oops, sorry about that, hit the computer, a filter to it. So we are going to go to Filter in the menu and drag down to Filter Gallery if you have it. Now some people don't have Filter Gallery. I think you might have to tell Photoshop to install it, maybe. Not sure why you don't have it, that's my guess. But these down here are lots of great filters too. I'm going to go to Filter Gallery first. The rest of you can go down here if you don't have it. So it's going to come up. Let me close that. Stay away from Sketch for now. I'll show you Sketch in a little bit. Go to like Artistic or Brush or Distort. Ooh, I like that. That looks good. Note that there's all these like parameters you can change. And they should update in real time. Yeah, it's updating. If I pull the texture down, it's probably going to look like nothing. Yeah, so that's just not going to do much. All right. So you can, if you don't like the way a filter looks, try playing with these parameters and see what you get. And sometimes these drop down things can change things up for you too. Then hit OK. Now remember your filter control. Now it'll say filter gallery is my filter I can repeat. Whatever the last filter you used, it will allow you to repeat. So if it didn't do enough, just hit, mine is Command F, yours might be Control F. Just repeat it. I can do it, I probably don't need to. Oh, no, I like that, that's better. That's much better, okay. So now we don't have a filter on our other part and it looks not as exciting. So what can we do? We can just go back to select and go to inverse and reselect that same part again. And let's go to filter, and this time I'll go down to this bottom part. I'll choose it's under render. I'll choose something under pixelate. I'll choose crystallize. Ooh, I like that. Now note, under filter, it now says I can repeat crystallize if I wanted to make it even more crystallized. So that looks pretty cool. Like, I can see simple shapes in it that are making a composition. I can see different textures and colors. All right, let's go to our, well, before we go to our third one, let me just show you that this is giving you can see it's giving you hard edges. You can make a selection and soften the edge. So let's go to our last one, and we're going to have to go image size, 3000, tab 2400, 300 for the resolution. You could do the levels if you want to, jump up the contrast, and levels are Command or Control L if you want to do it. We need to make it RGB color. Go ahead and flatten it. Select an area with your magic wand. All right, let me zoom in. Now we want this to be a soft edge, not a hard edge. We want to modify this selection, right? So it's a selection, so it's going to be under the select menu. So select, and we want to modify it. So we are going to go select, modify, feather. Select, modify, feather. And I'm going to do it 45. Let's really feather it, 45. And hit OK. And notice these two little circles here disappeared because it feathered so much that they kind of, it said these aren't 45 pixels, so we're just going to obliterate them. It made everything like a softer, rounder line. And now let's hit Command or Control B for boy, and let's add some color and hit OK. And when we zoom in, you can see I hid the selection. I didn't deselect it, which is Command Control H on the Mac. I don't know the PC equivalent. You can look it up. But you can see that it's a soft edge now. It's not, it's feathering it out, the color. And you can still see that with the selection on there. Now I want to color the other half, so I can just say select inverse, Command Shift I or Command Control I, and because it's feathered, it's going to keep that selection feathered. All right, let's hit Command or Control B for boy and add some color. And again, it should be feathering that color. Yeah, you can see it feather from one color to the next. Now we are going to add a filter. So keep it selected. Again, if you deselect it, Control or Command Z for the Mac, Control Z for the PC. Now here in our toolbar, our colors. So we need to go to our toolbar. Let's click the foreground color And it automatically gives you the eyedropper if you want to use it to pick a color on your document. So there we go. I'm making my foreground color that color. And let me choose a background color maybe. I think that's good. So you just double click them, pick a color, foreground, background. Double click both of those in the toolbar. Now we're going to go filter, filter gallery, and let's go to sketch. And let's just click the halftone pattern because that one really makes it clear that it's using your foreground and your background color. And to make that even more clear, I'm going to hit cancel and change my background color to something really different and do it again. Filter, filter gallery, and you're going to see it update to the blue that I just changed it to. It's a little hideous. Oh yeah, I think I'm going to change it back. Or maybe not. I'll just go with it. It's okay. All right. So there we go. It uses the sketch filters, and if you click on all of them, you're going to see how they are using your foreground background color. Now, again, they have different controls as well that might help change their effectiveness for your project. Note paper's kind of cool. Boring. Yeah. Reticulation. Let's see what happens if I don't mind that one. So, but the main point I'm trying to show you is these filters use your foreground and background colors, and some of these others do too. Just an FYI. I forget exactly which ones, but all the sketch ones do. All right, I'm going to stay on halftone pattern and hit OK. And by the way, under halftone, there's dot, there is line, there is circle. And if you want to see it, the whole image with this filter, way down in the corner here is a plus and minus, and you can hit the minus to put your whole thing in. Okay, so that having a circle in the middle is not good. We don't want that. I'm going to go back to dot and hit OK. Now there's not a cool filter on here, and by the way, when I zoom in you can see again, because we feathered the edge, the filter blends. So we want to put a filter on the other parts. So Command Shift I, or Control Shift I if you're on the PC, or select Inverse. And let's go ahead and go to filters. Let's see here. I'm going to go down the bottom here. Put a little lens flare. And by the way, you can add more than one filter. I'm not going to add anything more over this because I don't want to obliterate the lens flare. But actually, let me undo the lens flare and go to filter. And try facet. Didn't really do much, did it? Facet, you're kind of useless. Ooh, distort. I'm going to do distort, and wave is a good one. And you can choose, cyan or square. There we go. I'm going to do that. And now I'm going to go filter, render, lens flare. There we go. So now I put two filters on it. The lens flare and this distort filter, which is a really good filter. So now these two are looking pretty cool, but this first one's looking real sad and mopey. So select an area with your magic wand tool. Now if you want to feather it and make it a soft selection, select modify feather. That's up to you. You don't have to. This time we're using a different kind of adjustment. We're going to go image adjustments, hue saturation. So how does hue saturation work? Well, right now at 0 it's the color it is. But watch down here. Let me zoom in. and watch down here. See how it's just shifting all the colors. So it's an easy way to shift some colors. Now let me put this back to 0. You can also in a document choose individual colors. So, you know, I could have chosen, I think there's cyans in there, and just shift those colors, which looks kind of cool actually. A warning, don't do that. That is really hard to blend with other layers. When something's 100% of the color, you can't go any more saturated, and you kind of back yourself in the corner. So be very careful with the saturation, and don't use this lightness. It's not very good. You can use your levels if you want to lighten something. Don't use this. So there we go. I kind of changed it up with the hue saturation, and I can put some filters on it. Put that filter. I'm going to say select, inverse. Oh, oops. Filter gallery. And let's try some of the distort under here. Can be pretty cool. Oh, I don't want it smooth. I want it all. No, it's too small. And I can choose tiny lens. Ooh, I like tiny lens. Okay. So when you see a drop-down menu, always give it a look-see and hit OK. Alrighty. So let me delete or deselect, Command D. These two are kind of the same color. I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Invert, Command I. So that can really help you sometimes too, inverting things, inverting your image. So now these are really different colors. All of them are different colors. Okay, nice. So go to one of your images, and you're going to hit Command or Control A to select all, Command or Control C to copy the whole thing. And you know it's selected because the marching lines are all around the edge. Then go to another document, make sure your layers are up, window layers, if they're not, and hit Command or Control V for victory. And notice it looks like your other layer disappeared, but it didn't. You can see them both here. Here's one, here's the other. This one is just covering the one below it, but you can still see it by hitting the little eyeball. There it is. It's there. They're both here in their entirety. We want to blend them together. So how can we do that? Well, make sure the top layer is selected because there's nothing you can blend the bottom layer with. And then click on Normal, and you can just go through all the different blend modes and try and find something that you like. Let's stick with hard light. Okay. You can also pull down the opacity, if you wish, of the top layer, make it less prominent. So we're looking for 3 colors, at least, warm and cool tones, different textures. So I have green, I have pink, I have orange. So green is cool, pink and orange are warm. I have this texture, and I have this texture, and this texture, and this texture. So I have a lot of textures. We also want depth. There's a little bit of depth created right here, but I'm going to show you some other tricks. So let me go to this document. So go to one of your documents and use that magic wand to select some areas. Maybe I'll try the blue. The dark colors give me some grief. So I'm just selecting these blue tones, or attempting to. It's taking a little bit. I could raise my tolerance, by the way, up here, and it would select more. All right, so I've got most of the blue selected. So I'm going to hit Command or Control C to copy it. And then I'm going to hit Command or Control V to paste it right on top of the same document. And here in my layers we can see it. It's right here. And let me turn the bottom layer off so you can see what was copied. And by the way, this background is just telling you that the image is transparent here. It is not, this doesn't print. These squares don't print. Sometimes people think that they can use them as a texture in their backgrounds. They don't print. It's just a warning that that's transparent. All right, so make sure layer 1 is selected, the top layer, and you're going to double click in this gray space. Just double click, and you'll get up these layer styles. And let me zoom in. I'm going to click bevel and emboss, and you can see it's kind of making this look 3D. I can choose contour. It's making it look even more 3D. I can choose drop shadow. So now it's made this look more dimensional. And by the way, I can click on contour, and I can choose different styles of contour for my image. Some of them are a little out of control. I'm just going to stick with the original for now. And if I click on the word texture, there's different textures I could add in there if I wanted, and I can choose different patterns. I can control the scale and the depth. I don't really like that. I like what I had before, so I'm going to uncheck it. But for you, maybe it would be great. There's also drop shadow, and I, again, can control how extreme the drop shadow is. I can move how it's cast in what direction. I can change its size or how far away it is from the object. And let me just uncheck these and show you some of the others. There's outer glow, which maybe could work too for something. And again, when you click on it, you get all these options. There is inner shadow, which maybe could work if you want. See, that's pretty bad. It's set to pink. Let me set it to something a little darker and change it to multiply. So there's different effects in here you can use. I'm just changing that up. I'm going to go back to bevel and emboss and contour in my drop shadow. I'm going to hit OK, and then you can see what it looks like. And by the way, see all these little eyeballs by your effects? I can see what it looks like with and without the drop shadow. I can see what it looks like with and without the emboss. If I decide later I don't like this, I just click on the word effects, and there it is right there. Everything I did, I can go back and still edit it. So now this looks way more 3D. So I am going to grab a different piece to paste on it. So I'm going back to my original one, and this one you can see, I'm going to prove to you that these are independent layers. So here's this one, here's this one. Even though I've blended them together, I'm going to click on the background layer. So now anything I did to this background layer would only affect this layer. But it's selected, so I'm going to hit Command or Control A. I'm going to hit Command or Control C, and you're going to see that it's only going to be a copy of this layer. I'm going to go back to the one that I made Conv 3D, and I'm going to hit Command or Control V, and it is indeed only that layer. Now I can change my blend modes, and ooh, that's kind of cool. Sorry, I got excited. But, you know, it's really fun to go through these. Oh, that's kind of crazy. So find one you like. I like that because it put this texture kind of over the top of these. They almost look like wood, but they're definitely over the top of this blue stuff in the background. So that is pretty cool. Now, I can also, by the way, change my layer order. If I thought, you know, I really want this layer at the top, I could either click and drag it to the top or click and drag layer 2, oops, sorry about that, layer 2 below it, and then that changes how it blends things as well, which I like that, but let's see. I don't like that this blue wasn't affected as much. Maybe I'll play with it some more. So I think I'd still need to put a layer to affect this blue background more because it's a little all over. Or yeah, I could actually just click on that background layer. I can use my magic wand. It's selecting too much, so I'm going to make it 12. And just maybe hold that shift down. There we go. And I'm selecting some different areas in here. And I can hit either Hue Saturation, Command Up, or Command B for boy, or Control U for Hue Saturation, or Control B for boy. So that either gives you hue saturation or color balance. And I can kind of, I think I just want to shift the color a little. Maybe I'll try Command U. That might work. Now, depending on your blend modes, sometimes things don't really do what you think they're going to do. And here is an example. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command V. I'm going to move this up. I'm going to, there we go. I moved it all the way to the top. I don't like that texture. I'm going to try filter, blur. I'm going to try motion blur and really blur it. And maybe I'll add yet another filter. What can I do that looks cool? Let me zoom in. Uh-oh, don't crash. Maybe I want to, oh, I like the dissolve. That looks cool. All right. So just pull different layers, put them different places, play with them. Now the tools we talked about, what tools did we talk about? So if you go to your toolbar, the smudge and the blur tool. So what does the smudge tool do? I don't really like it going over here, so I can try and smudge it around. And see, my computer's hanging up, so be very careful. Don't overdo the smudge tool. La la la, let's wait a little while. Sometimes you can stop it if you overdo it by hitting Command period. All right, let me just show it to you again. I don't want darken. I'll change it to, all right. I'll be less crazy with it this time. There you go. You can see it. Oh, you can just see how that little bit made my computer freak out. So be very careful when using the smudge tool. Another good tool is the blur tool. And let me see here. I'm going to turn these all off so you can see what the blur tool does. As you can see, as I run it over stuff, it blurs it. So you can use it to kind of make some things look like they're going to the background. And the more you do it, the more it'll blur it. The higher the strength is, the more it'll blur it. And let me go back to that smudge tool again. And whoa, I'm just going to do that much because, yeah, it can really make stuff crazy. Okay. There's also, and I'll turn these all off again, so I only have one layer showing. If you hit O for open, the dodge tool, and again, if you go up here, exposure, how much it'll dodge, and what dodge means is lighten. And what are you dodging? The darkest areas, the middle areas, or the highlights? And these do matter. Let me just choose midtones and show you. Now, make sure when you're doing this that you have a nice, you know, a brush with these soft edges on it. And by the way, your brackets will make your brush bigger in real time. So those are by the P. So I can lighten an area. If that's too much, I can bring it down so it's not so extreme. Maybe bring it down to 30 something. Or maybe even 20. There we go. That's a little more subtle. And remember, you can keep running it over things and going back. There we go. And I'll hit Command Z to show you that indeed it did do stuff. Underneath the smudge tool is the burn tool. It does the opposite. It makes things darker. And again, how high this is, if I put it at 100 and I'll just click once, there we go, that's what I get. If I put it at 20 and click once, it's a lot less. And also you pick shadows, midtones, or highlights here. So I'll choose shadows and just keep going over these little dark edges. And again, when I hit Command Z, you can see it undo it. The other one underneath here is the sponge tool. And you can either have desaturate, and again, here's your amount, or saturate. Now, what does desaturating do? Let me zoom in. I'll go over this purple, and you can see that it is taking color out, and I can redo it. There you go. So if something is too bright, you could use desaturate to pull. There we go. It's pulling all that color out. Eventually, it'll turn black and white if you keep running it over it, and I'll undo it. Saturate does the opposite. It makes the color brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. But it can be good if you want to emphasize, you know, a subtle color, to add that in your document, to add that third color. Alrighty, so okay. So, if you wanted to say, let me go to a simpler one. Let's say you wanted to add a color into this. The easiest way, and we went over this with the hand coloring a photo exercise, which I'll make a video for as well. The easiest way is just click here and create a new layer. And then over here, choose your color, and then hit B or grab your brush. Now up here again, you know, I always say choose a soft brush for these. It looks way more natural. And I'm just gonna like paint, and it's gonna look like garbage. I mean, it's just covering up all my details. But that's okay, because I can go up here where it says normal and change. Ooh, that looks kind of crazy. Cut linear burn. I can change my blend mode. That's kind of crazy. I can also change my opacity. So I can color things and not destroy the details. And I can still edit this. So if I didn't like the color, let me put it to color burn. Or multiply, maybe multiply. I could hit, you know, Command U or B and just shift the color, or Control U or B, whichever you're on. U for up, B for boy. And you can do a lot of stuff that way. Another thing you could do is, let me click on this bottom layer again, as I'm going to grab the magic wand tool. I'm going to select this. Actually, you know what? Before I do anything, I'm going to show you another trick. I'm going to go select color range, and I'll click on my document with this eyedropper, and it shows everything that's that orange. I can move it up to get more of that orange. I can also, under here, choose reds, yellows, greens, blues, magentas, cyans, or my highlights, my midtones, my shadows, my skin tones. Lots of good stuff. And then I'll hit OK. That's selected. Now all I have to do is just click a layer above my background, and it just made a layer, but it's still selected. And I'll choose my color, and I'll say Edit Fill, and it'll fill with, well, you can choose foreground color, background color. I think if you hit color, it lets you, oh, it's not working. So foreground or background color. I'm going to choose foreground color. Content aware, don't do that yet, or pattern. Black, 50% gray, white, those are all things you can choose. I'm choosing my foreground color. I'll just hit OK, and it fills it. And again, I can go and change my blend modes to keep my details. I also have this separately, so if I want to, I can go in and I could say, I'm going to go noise, add noise. I'll add some dust and scratches. I'll add some regular old noise on it. So you can just copy pieces, you can just paste pieces on each other. I could, now this is its own thing, I could add the bevel and emboss or contour or drop shadow. Alright, I'm going to show you another thing. So as I'm editing these, it only affects the layers I'm on. What if you have something, say this, and I'm not happy with these dark areas, I just want to change those. And it's a real pain with all the different blend modes, because they behave in a variety of ways. Let's say I want this just one piece. So I am going to hit, oops, not that. Command Option Shift E or Command Alt Shift E, and it makes a copy of it as one thing. Now I still have the layers here, but now I can just work on this thing. So I could easily grab these really dark areas and just keep going. I'll make another layer. I'll say Edit Fill, fill it with my foreground color. I will put filters on it. Maybe I'll add a blur to it. So you can just keep going. I mean, just, ooh, that's kind of cool. I think I'll go Filter Gallery and Sketch. halftone. I'm going to choose the circle. Ooh, that's cool. I'm going to play with some of the blend modes. I don't want it to disappear. Oh, it looks like, that's not too bad. I think I like the pin light, but I think this is still a little dark, so I'll just grab my burn tool. Or I think it's, yeah, it's a little light. I think maybe I need my midtones. Darken it a little. Oh, it's not darkening much. Oh, there we go. I can also pull down my opacity a little. Oh, that's better. So now I have yet another texture in that area, and that is awesome. So right now we have this document with all these effects and all these different layers. Let me show you something. If you go down here in the very corner, it says 142 megabytes slash 20.68 megabytes. What does that mean? That's the file size. And there's two numbers there because this one is the size it is now. This is the size if you flatten it. Command Shift E or Control Shift E flattens it. However, once it's flattened, you know, you can't edit any of these things and use them anymore. So think really hard about flattening things. You can also say File, Export. Quick Export is PNG or Export As. Either one will let you upload it to Flickr. And then you can say File, Save As, and save this as a PSD. So you have all the layers.